Good day, this is Podcast Reflection 6. I listened to Agile Amped today about Tom Cooper's 4 levels of thinking as a geek leader. So I'm an IT professional and I wanted to look up some information about IT leaders because as a general rule, IT people are very behind the scenes and sometimes leadership is hard for them. So this was a really interesting podcast from Tom Cooper. But first, we'll talk a little bit about physical activity. In previous weeks, we heard about physical activity benefiting brain function, keeping your brain young, and promoting higher neurogenesis. So we all know that physical activity is good for you. It's good for your brain. It's good for your memory. It's good for your life as a whole. But I think we could probably all agree that it is hard to complete physical activity and also promote good self-care and good mental health while in school. And I think that a lot of traditional students as well as distance students and graduate students struggle with this, especially in today's world of trying to fit way too much on all of our plates. So I looked up a really interesting article about mental health from Katya Lovek in 2017. Katya is a policy researcher at Ghent University. This article postulates that the high prevalence of mental health problems in PhD students is critical in terms of individual suffering, organizational, and societal costs. In the long run, it will also impact research itself. So I think that this is a really important thing to consider with graduate students. So again, like I said last week, Dr. LaPrairie is onto something here because it's really hard to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves mentally, physically, and all other ways. I have to admit that I bought some Reese's cups with Reese's Pieces in them, and they were absolutely delicious, so I was munching on them while I was doing this research. The students in the survey were in a different country, and that would have a different effect because it's a different culture. But I think that as a general rule, graduate students are stressed and often lack the time to properly take care of their physical and mental health. This week I listened to a podcast from Tom Cooper, who is a fellow North Carolinian, works as a leadership coach in Charlotte, North Carolina. So Charlotte's not really close to me, but it's a lot closer than Texas. And he helps geeks become better communicators and leaders. So I thought this was pretty funny. The story he told was, I was a software person and I got better and better, and then I got a raise, and he did this for several years, and then after 5 or 6 years they said, okay, well, you're doing a good job, so here you've got to manage a team. I think that this happens to a lot of IT professionals, whereas they are good programmers or they're good hardware professionals or they're good IT managers, and they don't necessarily have those leadership skills, and they are faced with having to manage a team of people, and they struggle with that. So in a previous week, we heard from Herminia Ibarra about how developing leadership skills takes practice and often feels uncomfortable. And I have to say, being an IT professional, also being married to an IT professional and being friends with a great many IT professionals, that leadership does feel uncomfortable to them sometimes. IT professionals in general have to be behind the scenes and seamless, and are often uncomfortable taking leadership positions. So this podcast really spoke to me and my background and my friends and my husband's background, because IT is supposed to be invisible. When it works, you're not supposed to know there's an IT department all behind the scenes making your computer work. So that's something that that is big in my life, definitely. So some of the key points that Tom brought up is that you can learn to influence people. So sometimes bosses are great and sometimes they are not. Not everybody who becomes a boss has training in leadership skills or management skills even. They become a boss for some uncertain reason that they're not sure of. And one of the things that Tom does is helping geeks to communicate. So this is a really, really interesting paradigm shift for information technology professionals to get help with this kind of skill. It's an important thing to learn. Another point that Tom makes in the podcast is that you have to connect to people, and you connect ideas with one another. You have to show people that you care about them and you want to learn about them. You can use topics to connect with people's interests. He said that connectors connect on common ground. It's not necessarily that you have to be interested in the same things. You just have to be interested in them as a person. And he used a really good example about connecting with a colleague who was really, really into hockey, and all he did was ask, hey, how was the hockey game this weekend? And then that, spawned into further conversation, and the perception was that, there was this mutual trust. So listening is a really important skill when connecting with other people. Additionally, leaders are into doing the right things, and managers are into doing things right. Both are valuable, and you have to have both to be successful. This connects back to our prior research from Reiser and Dempsey that at times you need to be a leader and at other times you need to be a manager. So I think that this is really a common theme among leadership, that leaders are striving to figure out what's the right thing to do, and managers are more in the day-to-day grind of figuring out how to make things happen. So how do you become a good leader? So Tom says that a good way to do this is to get people to talk about themselves to achieve influence. When you get people to talk about themselves, they like that. Everybody wants to talk about themselves, and likability increases cooperation to work well together. So if I say to you, hey, what's going on in your life, and you talk to me about that, that automatically makes you feel that I care about you and I want to cooperate with you more. He also states that 80% of work success is in personal skills, not technical skills. That's a really important thing to remember. So Tom has created this 4 levels of thinking model for IT professionals, and those are the individual, what can I do with my own 2 hands by myself? And then as a team member, how do I work better within my team? And then becoming into a team leader, learning how to develop teams, and finally a team builder, how to develop teams who can work well together, and how to identify the leaders of those teams. And in these 4 levels of team leadership, Tom encourages us to look and see, where are we? Are we on level 2? Are we on level 3? And they may move around a little bit, but we can always look to see where we are in these levels of thinking and where we are in this team building process. This also relates back to Miller and Curry's 2014 article about committing to a service leadership mindset to achieve leadership goals. So my experience is that I feel that I'm a good change agent. I'm good at communicating and inspiring others to change, but I'm also a leader from behind the scenes. I don't necessarily like to be in the spotlight. I don't necessarily like to give presentations or flaunt my experience for others. I'm, kind of a hermit. So I would like to continue networking, certainly share my knowledge with the public, find ways I can use my research to help others, and keep practicing these leadership traits. Being a man behind the curtain, so to speak, is sometimes a hard position to be in, because you don't want people to know, what you're doing. And I think that the IT field is defined by people who are doing their jobs, and they're doing good jobs, and they're working hard. And if they're doing a good job, that is invisible to the end user. So in a field where we're all working as a man behind the curtain, it's a little hard to, peek out and say, hey, try this new thing, or whatever the case may be. So that's something definitely that I would like to work on. So this week for my tech tip, I wanted to share something that will help to increase communication and follow up. And that is that you are able to schedule messages to be sent at a later date. You can do this through email. You can do this through Facebook messaging. You can do it on many different types of communication media. So you can even do it through text messaging on your cell phone. So often I want to send a message, but it's not time to send that message yet. And usually the time that I do this is when I have to remind my mom to pick up my daughters from camp or school or wherever they may be. So it may be 8 o'clock at night, and I'll think, okay, I need to send a reminder. Yeah, please pick up the girls at 3 o'clock tomorrow. But maybe I'm going to be in a meeting tomorrow, or I'll forget, or I'll get busy at work. So I can go ahead and send that message out and schedule it to be sent at 2:45 tomorrow afternoon. This is something I use a lot. I think it is very valuable. Another way to do this is through mail merge programs, which will be a later tech tip. But let's go ahead and look at how I do it on my personal phone, which is an Android device. If you have a different phone or an iPhone, you may be able to go ahead and figure out how to send messages at a later time. It really increases your connections with people. So let's say, for example, that I want to text Laurie in the morning. I don't want to do it right now, but I want to say good morning and have a great day. Now, we're ready to send the message, but since we don't want it to go out now, and your phone may be different, but what I do on my phone is to hold down the airplane and go ahead and it'll pop up your schedule. You can change that to tomorrow at 10:42 a.m. Select schedule, and then that message is going to be scheduled to be delivered at whatever time you set. This is a really good way to keep in touch with people and not forget to go ahead and follow up with them. I want to thank you for listening to this presentation. Please like our page and like this video, and stay tuned for more tech tips from Ara and Laurie. Have a great day.